Namaste students. So today we are going to read the new chapter, that is second chapter from Hornbill. Chapter's name is We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together. Now you may be surprised why is such a dialogue used as a chapter. So as we proceed, we'll come to know why this particular dialogue is used as a chapter's name. If you see, you have got inverted commas. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. Writers are Jordan Cook and Elaine East. So this chapter tells about the extreme bravery and skill exhibited by Jordan Cook, Jordan Cook's family and crewmen in a war with water and the waves for existence. Here you can see the picture of Jordan Cook receiving the award for his bravery. Jordan Cook received his award over 30 years after the incident in 1977, following many years living and sailing overseas. This incident took place somewhat in 1976-77. So chapter begins with, I want you all to have your textbook in front of you with page number 13. So here we start. In July 1976, my wife Mary, son Jonathan, six in the sense the son is of son's age is 6 years old, daughter Suzanne who is 7 years old, and I set sail from Plymouth, England, to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years early by Captain James Cook. If you see here, where is Plymouth? Plymouth, sorry, it is in United Kingdom. So you can see over here, I have marked over here. So from there, they started their journey. Four members, husband, wife, daughter, and son. And what was the intention? To duplicate in the sense trying to repeat the incredible feat of Captain James Cook, who had taken the round the world voyage almost 200 years back. So here you can say Mary and I, a 37-year-old businessman, had dreamt of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer, and for the past 16 years we had spent all our leisure time honing over seafaring skills in British waters. Honing over seafaring skills means we were refining, we were mastering, we were sharpening our seafaring skills. If you see on the screen, we have the picture of Captain James Cook, who was born on 7th November 1728 and he died on 14th February 1779. He was a British explorer, navigator, and cartographer who ultimately rose to the rank of captain in the Royal Navy. So their dream was to duplicate the round the world voyage made by this captain almost 200 years ago. Our boat, Wave Walker, a 23-meter, 30-ton wooden hulled beauty, had been professionally built, and we had spent months fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather we could find. So you can see the picture of Wave Walker. It was professionally made for this entire family to duplicate the round the world voyage made by Captain James Cook. The first leg of our planned 3 year, the first leg in the sense the first stage of our planned 3 year, that is 105,000-kilometer journey, passed pleasantly as we sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. If you see in the map over here, sorry, globe over here, you can see I've marked over here. The black mark over here shows you the Plymouth. From here, they had started their journey. They came across, they went, and then they had reached the southernmost tip of Africa, that is Cape Town. And the author says, Jordan Cook says that our this particular journey was pleasant. There, before heading east, now of course they're going to move towards east. Before heading east, we took on two crewmen American Larry Vigil and Swiss Herb Sagler. These were the two crewmen. They accompanied them with the entire family to help us tackle one of the world's roughest seas, the Southern Indian Ocean. If you see the Southern Indian Ocean, this is said to be the roughest sea. And from here now, they are going to move towards the east. The next destination is to reach near Australia. From there, they're going to take a round and then come back to the place where they had started. So on our second day out of Cape Town, they left on the second day. We began to encounter, okay, of course, this is a screen of two crewmen helping them out. So we began to encounter strong gales. Gales are nothing else but strong winds. For the next few weeks, they blew continuously. Gales did not worry me, but the size of the waves was alarming, up to 15 meters, as high as our main mast. You can see the picture over here. The waves were of such height, of alarming height, which reached almost to 15 meters of their main mast. So author, he said that he was not scared of the gales, of the strong winds, but he was scared of the waves. December 25th found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Despite atrocious weather, we had a wonderful holiday complete with a Christmas tree. If you see, 25th of December is the Christmas day. So he says that though the weather was, no, the waves were high, we had pleasantly enjoyed our Christmas Eve. New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather, but we reasoned that it had to change soon, and it did change for the worst. For the worst, sorry. The author says that he expected on 25th, okay, they had pleasantly celebrated the Christmas Day, and after 5 days, he was expecting that the weather will be calm, but it worsened more. At dawn on January 2nd, 1st January went off, 2nd January, the waves were gigantic. We were sailing with only a storm zip. Here we have the picture of a boat, how it looks, you can just see. This is the main mast. You have this main sail. Here you have the zip. This side is the port side. The other side is the starboard side. Here we have this side is called as stern. Why I'm showing, because the entire chapter we need to know how they went through all this adventure, how they have saved their life, which part was damaged, how they manage, all these things we need to know. So just this picture you have to keep in mind. I hope you had a glance. So the author says that at dawn on 2nd January, the waves were gigantic. We were sailing with only a small storm zip and were still making 8 knots. If you see in the water, they don't count in kilometers or miles, they count into knots. So the author says that with all this, we were just moving forward, still making 8 knots. 8 knots, nothing else but sea miles. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, we could see endless, enormous seas rolling towards us, and the screaming of the wind and spray was painful to the ears. To slow the boat down, we dropped the storm zib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. This we need to listen very carefully. Just to slow down the boat or the ship, what they did is this is the mooring rope you can see over here. A strong mooring, or you can say heavy mooring rope, was tied in a loop across the stern. This is the stern part of the boat. Then we double lashed everything. We went through our life raft drill. Now, this you have seen. A raft is nothing else but a small, rigid, or inflatable boat carried for emergency evacuation in the event of a disaster aboard a ship. So this drill, in a sense, opening of this and practicing all these things, how to go inside, how to one small drill, one small exercise is done over here. So life raft drill, attached lifelines. You can see over here. These are the lifelines. So they attach the lifelines. Here you can see lifeline is a rope-like thing used by sailors to secure themselves to a boat. So here if you see, this sailor has secured, he has worn this, he has secured, he has tied himself to this particular lifeline. Is that clear? So attached lifelines, donned oilskins. You can see this small baby girl is wearing oilskin and life jacket and waited. Of course, they have all done this they have taken all these precautions and they waited because they knew that now they are going to face a disaster. So next paragraph we see. The first indication of impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. with an ominous silence. Ominous silence means evil silence, or you can say unpleasant silence or threatening silence. In Hindi we say किसके पहले सन्नाटा? तूफान के पहले सन्नाटा. In the same way, the author says that at 6 p.m. what we came across was the ominous silence. The wind dropped and the sky immediately grew dark. Then came a growing roar, and an enormous cloud towered aft of this ship. The author, he saw that immediately what happened? Within few seconds, he could hear the roaring, and then he saw that what a big cloud came across, or you can say came over the ship. With horror, I realized that it was not a cloud, but a wave like no other I had ever seen. And it took him just few seconds to realize that it was not a cloud, it was a big wave. It appeared perfectly vertical and almost twice the height of the other waves with a frightful breaking crest. You see crest in the sense nothing else but a breaking top. What he saw is it appeared vertically, perfectly vertical and almost twice the height of all the other waves. If you compare, if you see the screen I've tried to show you, it was twice the height of the other waves and with the frightful breaking crest. You can see here, this is the breaking crest and the breaking top you can see. The roar increased to a thunder as the stern moved up the face of the wave, and for a moment I thought we might ride over it, but then a tremendous explosion shook the deck. A torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. My head smashed into the wheel, and I was aware of flying overboard and sinking below the waves. I accepted my approaching death. And as I was losing consciousness, I felt quite peaceful. Oh, we all are scared of death. But once death has overcome us, everything is peaceful. So what he felt that almost he is dead and he felt now no more struggle, no more suffering. I felt quite peaceful. Unexpectedly, my head popped out of the water. Why? Because they were wearing life jackets. He had no, he had used even he had tied himself even to the lifelines. So what happened? His head popped out of the water a few meters away. Wave Walker was near capsizing. Capsizing in the sense sinking. It was almost nearly sinking. Her masts almost horizontal. Then a wave hurled her upright. My lifeline jerked taut, and I grabbed the guard rails and sailed through the air into Wave Walker's main boom. Subsequent waves tossed me around the deck like a rag doll. You can just imagine, because it's a storm, there are heavy, huge waves are there, and how this particular writer, how he was tossed from one side to the other side like a rag doll. Why? Because he had tied himself to the lifeline of the boat. It's quite natural. As per the boat was moving or shaking, he was thrown in and out. He had to take control of the wheel. My left ribs cracked, my mouth filled with blood and broken teeth. Somehow I found the wheel, lined up the stern for the next wave, and hung on. So immediately what he did, because his entire family and those two crewmen were there, their life he has to save. So immediately when he got into the boat, he took hold of the wheel and tried that when the next wave comes, his boat go over it should pass over it. So water, water everywhere. I could feel that the ship had water below. But I dared not abandon the wheel to investigate. Of course, he understood that even down below the cabins which are there surely there may be water, but he had no intention. He had no, he did not try to go by, because now his duty was to take control of the ship. He should be at the wheel. Suddenly, the front hatch was thrown open. Front hatch in the sense the door in the deck. So front hatch was thrown open and Mary appeared. "We are sinking," she screamed. "The decks are smashed. We are full of water." So that is what his wife came out and she informed that down water is entering in and we are completely sinking. "Take the wheel," I shouted as I scrambled for the hatch. So now the author has to now next job of author is to stop the water which is entering into the boat. So he told his wife to come to the wheel, take control of the wheel, and he went near the hatch, or you can say he went near the deck door. Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen. It's quite obvious, even the crewmen, for what purpose they were brought, they were doing the job very superficially, fastly. They were pumping out the water like madmen. Broken timbers, broken timbers at crazy angles, the whole starboard side bulged inwards. Now again, I'm showing you the picture of a boat, how it is. This side is the port side, this side is the starboard side, here is this side called as stern, and here we have this forward side. So what he says is this particular side, you can see the arrow mark, my cursor, I'm using it. Broken timbers hung at crazy angles. Here over here at the starboard side, the whole starboard side bulged inwards. It bulged inwards. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins, and toys sloshed about in deep water. Sloshed means what? To be thrown noisily, or you can say splash in water. If in this incident, you can remember the Titanic movie if you have watched it. The clothes, crockery, charts, tins, and toys, they were splashing noisily in the water, deep water. I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. "Are you all right?" I asked. "Yes," they answered from the upper bunk. If you remember all these things, if you have traveled, you may know all these things, but if you have not, we have watched Titanic movie, and this scene we had seen, there are bunkers. So from the upper bunk, the reply came of the kids. "But my head hurts a bit," said Sue, pointing to a big bump above her eyes. I had no time to worry about bumped heads. So here maybe the daughter, she had got a wound which was swollen, but now author was not in a mood to see all such minor things. His main job was to stop the water entering into the boat, and he was searching for the tools how to stop it. After finding a hammer, screws, and canvas, I struggled back on deck. With the starboard side bashed open, we were taking water with each wave that broke over us. If I couldn't make some repairs, we would surely sink. So his main job was to repair the starboard side because from there more and more water was entering inside. Somehow I managed to stretch canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across the gaping holes. So he tried to cover those holes by using canvas and by using waterproof hatch. Some water continued to stream below, but most of it was now being deflected over the side. Deflected over the side in the sense it was changed, deviate from its original path. So because of the things what he had used, only now little or you can say some amount of water continued to stream inside. More problems arose when our hand pumps started to block up with the debris floating around the cabins and the electric pump short circuited. The water level rose threateningly. Back on deck, I found that our two spare hand pumps had been wrenched in the sense twisted overboard, along with the forestay sail in the sense front big sail, the zip, the dinghies, you can see the dinghy over here, and the main anchor. So all these materials you can see were almost spoiled. Then I remembered we had another electric pump under the chart room floor. I connected it to an outpipe and was thankful to find that it worked. So what he remembered in the chart room floor, he has got one more spare, you can say electric pump. So he got that electric pump and he connected it to a outpipe, and at the most you can say some of the water which was entering is in the boat was pumped out. It worked. It really worked. The night dragged on with an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering, and working the radio. Of course, all these people, of course, kids, they can't do because boy is of 6 years old and daughter is of 7 years old. But these four people, you can say the two crewmen, husband and wife, you can say Jordan, Cook, and Mary, and those two crewmen, they were continuously doing the job of pumping out the water. So, what he's saying, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering, and working the radio. We were getting no replies to our Mayday calls. What are Mayday calls? Mayday is the word used around the world to make a distress call via radio communications. Mayday signals a life threatening emergency, usually on a ship or a plane, although it may be used in a variety of other situations. They are also called as SOS signals. So when they were trying their radio, the radio was not working, which was not surprising in this remote corner of the world. Sue's head had swollen alarmingly. She had two enormous black eyes, and now she showed us a deep cut on her arm. When I asked why she hadn't made more of her injuries before this, she replied, I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all. A girl of 7 years old, she is mature enough, she said that because when dad asked why didn't you inform me, so she said I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all, because when she saw daddy is there, mummy is there, those two uncles are doing the job of saving, this small worry I should not go and present in front of my parents. That is what she kept quiet. By morning on January 3rd, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. So these four people, they took 2 hour rest in rotation. So we can say maybe one person is going and taking rest, other three of them are pumping out the water. But still, we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the water line, And on checking, I found that nearly all the boat's main rib frames were smashed down to the keel. You can see here in blue color, I have marked this keel. So you can say from here till down, this is the base, you can say, where the entire boat is or the ship is supported. This itself had been damaged. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. The starboard side, which we had seen in the previous slide, the picture of a boat or the you can see the framework. The starboard side was completely damaged, and he's saying that it was just it was safe because of few cupboard partitions. We had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit, but Wave Walker wouldn't hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. I checked our charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers in the east. One of them, Isle Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. Pinpricks, exactly, if you see, is nothing else but to use a pin to prick or to make a wound. But here, pinpricks means the small, not so important islands. Are you getting it? And insignificant, you can say insignificant one, not so important islands. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. So you can say here, I have just marked, they started from Plymouth, they came to the south of African tip, Cape Town, and from here they were heading towards Australia, but they faced lots of problem because Indian Ocean, Southern Indian Ocean, South Indian Ocean is not that calm and quiet as compared to Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean. So when they were crossing, they found it difficult. They had met with an accident, and his plan was now to come to this particular island, one of the two islands, that is Amsterdam Island, which was also a French scientific base. But unless the wind and seas abated, so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action. Now here he cannot even use the sails. Why? Because the starboard side, if he uses the sail, if the wind is strong, it might get more damage. On January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. We could not set any sail on the main mast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So we hoisted the storm zip and headed for where I thought the two islands were. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. You can say after 2 days, somewhat when the problem was subsided, they got chance to have their meals. And what they had as meals, just corned beef and cracker biscuits. But our respite, our rest, a short rest was short lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hour, the wind was back to 40 knots and the seas were getting higher. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn on January 5th, our situation was again desperate. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, Daddy, are we going to die? I tried to assure him that we could make it. But, Daddy, he went on, we aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together, you and Mummy, Sue and I. So, here is what is the dialogue of a small child of 6 years old, is taken as the title of this particular chapter. We aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together. That is the fact. Even when we have all these calamities going around us, our only hope is that we should not be left behind, or our family should not be left behind, because one or the other, if a person dies, the entire family, is under grief, under sorrow. So a small boy of 6 years old, he wishes that he is not scared of dying. Only thing is what? If we all die together, it will be better, because he knows what is the pain of seeing only his parents, or only he being alive. We have seen Life of Pi. I hope you understand what the situation a person goes through when the entire family is drowned into the sea and only he is left behind. So this, we can say, a child of 6 years old, he doesn't want that thing to happen to him, and his dialogue is taken as the title of this chapter. I could find no words with which to respond, but I left the children's cabin determined to fight the sea with everything I had. And that was enough for the father to, become determined to fight for the life of his entire family. Just a one line dialogue by this 6-year-old child was enough for the father to fight all the difficulties which he is going to face now. So next is, to protect the weakened starboard side, I decided to heave to. Now heave to is nothing else but exclamation used when pulling on a rope. You might have heard the fishermen say he, ha, who. They use certain words. But I don't know actually. But yeah, hi, ya, hoi. They use certain words. So he decided to heave who. That is exclamation made with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves, using a improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and two 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. So this, using this, he is going to now stop the incoming water from the starboard side. That evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. We both felt the end was very near. Now, that is what is left when we try our best, and when nothing is left and no option is left, the only option is what? To just sit quietly and watch the disaster, or just keep quietly and pray for the Almighty to save our life. So that is what husband and wife, they sat together holding their hands, and they were just helpless, seeing more and more water entering into the ship. But Wave Walker rode out the storm, and by the morning of January 6th, with the wind easing, I tried to get a reading on the sextant. This is the picture of a sextant. Back in the chart room. Now, what is a sextant? An astronomical instrument used to determine altitude and longitude at sea by measuring angular distances, especially the altitudes of sun, moon, and stars. Or you can say it's a navigational device for deriving angular distance between objects so as to determine latitude and longitude. So I worked on wind speeds, change of course, drift, and current in an effort to calculate our position. The best I could determine was that we were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers of ocean, looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. While I was thinking, Sue, moving painfully, joined me. The left side of her head was now very swollen, and her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. Slits are nothing else we can say, just a small narrow cut. You can say, imagine the entire face or the forehead is completely swollen, and the eyes, it looked like just narrow cuts. She gave me a card she had made. On the front, she had drawn caricatures. You can see over here, caricatures are nothing else but the cartoon pictures. The caricatures of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh?" I laughed a lot as well. Inside was a message. "Oh, how I love you both." So this card is to say thank you, and let's hope for the best. Somehow we have to make it. So here you can see the boy also encouraged his father, and this particular girl of 7 years old also is encouraging her parents that, oh, I love you both. So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. I checked and rechecked my calculations. We had lost our main compass, and I was using a spare which had not been corrected for magnetic variations. I had made an alliance. To make an alliance is nothing else but to think about or plan for something that will or might happen in future. I made an alliance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerlies currents which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean. About 2 p.m., I went on deck and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. If we are lucky, I told him with a conviction. Conviction is what? A state of being found guilty. I did not feel he could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. Then, with a heavy heart, I went below, climbed on my bunk, and amazingly dozed off. When I woke, it was 6 p.m. and growing dark. I knew we must have missed the island, and with the sail we had left, we couldn't hope to beat back into the westerly winds. At that moment, a tousled head appeared at my bunk. Tousled head means what? Uncombed, untidy hair. Head appeared at my bunk. Can I have a hug? Jonathan asked. Sue was right behind him. Why am I getting a hug now? I asked. Because you are the best daddy in the world, in the whole world, and the best captain, my son replied. Not today, John, I am afraid. Why not? Why? You must be, said Sue in a matter of fact voice. You found the island. What? I shouted. It's out there in front of us, they chorused. As big as a battleship. I rushed on deck and gazed with relief at the stark outline of El Amsterdam. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, the most beautiful island in the world. Now, why is the author calling this as the most beautiful island in the world? I hope you understood because this is the only island which is going to give them time to repair their boat and go back to their land or continue their journey by using a better one options if they get on the island. So he's saying that in the starting, if you say, he's saying it was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation. You can see in the picture. Yes, it is. The most beautiful island in the world. Do you think it looks most beautiful? No, but for him it was the most beautiful. Why? Because that was the only island which is about to save his family and those two crewmen. We anchored offshore for the night, and the next morning, all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered us as they helped us ashore. You can see on that island, only 28 inhabitants were there. So, when they got to know that they have a guest, they all came out and they helped them to come ashore because till that time they were offshore for the night. They rested there for the night. They took the support, or you can they took the shelter of the island. They waited there, and then these people, 28 inhabitants, they came and they welcomed their guest. With land under my feet again, my thoughts were full of Larry and Herbie, cheerful and optimistic under the direst stress, and of Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours. Most of all, I thought of a 7-year-old girl who did not want us to worry about a head injury, which subsequently took 6 minor operations to remove a recurring blood clot between skin and skull. That wound which she had, that swollen part which she had, was such a severe one that it took almost 6 to 7 operations to get that blood clot removed. And of a 6-year-old boy who was not afraid to die. In this slide, you can see it was a news headline: Amazing tale of family who copied Cook's great voyage. And yes, he says that as my feet touched the land, I was full of thoughts. Why? Because his past was, you can see now you have throwback, right? His past was just rolling in front of him. He just remembered, he just recalled the hard work of Larry, of that Herbie, and even Mary, and the strength shown by his children. One is the 6-year-old boy, and the other 7-year-old girl. The, you know, how they encouraged him, and because of all their efforts, today they were safe on this island. And after 30 years, of course, Jordan Cook got award for this bravery, for saving his entire family. So with this we end with the chapter. I hope you all liked it. Once again, read the chapter. You will find it more easy to understand with all these clippings and with all these slides. So see you next in the next class. Till then, thank you and bye bye.